Hello there. This subject that we're going to talk about now changed my whole life. Again, it was the turning point in my career when I first learned this. And every mistake I've made in sales is when I forgot this. And we call this relationship selling. The dean of the Harvard Business School once wrote that all selling in the future will be relationship selling. And I see some of the biggest companies in the world with salespeople representing billion-dollar products and services actually bumped out because of the poor personality of the salesperson, because of his or her indifference to the quality of the relationship. Interesting, by the way, in politics, do you know who wins the election? The ones that people like the most? Even if they're just watching them on television, the ones that people feel that they would like most to sit and have lunch with or have dinner with is the person who wins, irrespective of all philosophy and debate and everything else. The relationship is everything. Now, selling has changed dramatically in the last few years, from a rapid, impersonal process where you see as many people and so on, to a slower, people-intensive process. Today, everything is people. It is individual men and women that you talk to making buying decisions. So the heart of the sale today is contained in the quality of the relationships that you form with your prospects and customers. The very best and most successful salespeople are those who are the most capable of entering into and maintaining the highest quality relationships with people who can buy from them and recommend them to their friends and associates. In fact, the #1 word to describe the most successful salespeople worldwide is the word nice. He or she is a nice person. Now, in this session, you learn the key elements of relationship building and relationship selling and how you can apply them to every part of your sales activities. Today, everything in work and sales is relationships, from getting a good table and getting good service in a restaurant all the way through to every part of your life. In fact, 85% of your success and happiness in life will be involved with other people and be determined by how well you get along with other people or not. Now, in society today, increasing levels of high tech leads to increasing levels for high touch to maintain balance. If you start off with low tech in the middle, as you become higher and higher tech, you must become higher and higher touch in order to balance this need. Sometimes I ask, what percentage of people's decision making is emotional and what percentage is rational? And my audiences will give me a variety of numbers, 80, 90, 70, 60, and so on. And I say, no, people are 100% emotional. People are completely dominated by their feelings. They, first of all, decide emotionally, and then they justify their decision rationally or logically. Emotions are everything. Now, the friendship factor is the key to all success in selling, is that all top salespeople are described by their customers as being their friends as well. The company's most valuable asset in the marketplace is its reputation, how it is known to its customers. Again, this work out of Harvard is important. Your reputation for your company is more important in making sales than anything else. And your most valuable asset is the same. It is your reputation. It is how you are known and thought about by your customers. It's how they feel about you when they see you or when they think about you. That determines everything they do with regard to you. There are some key facts about sales relationships. First, sales relationships are hard to form because of the amount of competition in the marketplace. You can't just go out and say, I'm going to form a whole bunch of relationships, because people are skeptical, they are suspicious, they are busy, and relationships take time to form. It takes a lot of interaction between two people before they start to feel comfortable with each other. Now, the next point is that relationships, once formed, are easy to maintain if you pay attention to them. So they're hard to form, but they're easy to maintain. Almost like spinning plates. Once the plates get spinning, you can keep the relationship going as long as you pay attention. Now, the decision to buy is the decision to enter into a long-term relationship with you and your company. We sort of say that it's like a business marriage. When you ask the customer to buy your product or service, you're asking the customer to get married, to enter into a long-term relationship. Now, once a customer buys from you, several things happen that are really important. First of all, the customer becomes dependent on you and your promises, like in any relationship. And customers don't like to be dependent for a very good reason. You see, all customers have been burned in previous sales relationships, so they're naturally skeptical. They've been sold the wrong product at the wrong price by the wrong person. The product has broken down, they've gotten poor service, and they wish they had never bought it at all. So therefore, even if they like your product or service and they like you, they're slow to make a decision. Now, there are a variety of alternatives available to your customer to satisfy his needs. This is a critical factor in the market. The customer doesn't have to buy from you. In fact, a good friend of mine was lecturing a group of business students, and they said, what are the most important factors that will affect our lives in the future? And he said, there's 3 factors. They are competition, competition, and competition. So here's the rule. The customer wants a relationship first before he or she seriously considers your product or service. You could sort of imagine going out on a date with a member of the opposite sex. Before you start talking to the person about your car and your house, the other person wants a relationship. They want to get to know you. They want to feel comfortable with you. They want to have it back and forth with you. So therefore, the very best salespeople go fast by going slow. And at the beginning, they make no effort to sell at all. It's called selling by not trying to sell, at least at the beginning. Now, the law of indirect effort, one of the great principles of relationships, says that the more you focus on the relationship, the more the sale will take care of itself. But the more you focus on the sale and not the relationship, the less likely you are to get either one. In making the buying decision, the relationship is actually more important to the customer than the product or service that you sell. You see, your product or service is available in other places, but the relationship is only possible with you. And in lots and lots of research of the keys to successful salespeople in companies, they came up with a term called customer intimacy. And they found that customer intimacy, the customer feels a special relationship with you, is the key to high and predictable and repeat sales. This is why it's so important to take time to form a relationship and then make sure that you pay attention to it so you don't allow it to drift away. Now, one of the biggest problems in business is indifference. And when they interview customers and they say, why did you leave this supplier and go to that supplier? The number one reason is indifference on the part of somebody in the company. Indifference is taking your customer for granted. This is the main reason for lost customers. It's not prices or even quality or competition. It's just that you didn't respect the customer and pay attention to the customer. You weren't sensitive enough to the customer. And I've had this experience myself where you go to a place several times and they're very nice to you, and one day you go and they treat you with complete indifference. They treat you like they couldn't care if you came at all. And what happens is you go away and you never come back. So it's really important. Keeping a customer is much easier than getting a new customer, and much, much easier than getting that customer to come back. So customers use the same words to describe top salespeople in every industry. The first thing they say is, he or she works for me. I feel that he or she is sort of like my employee in this area, only I don't have to pay them. Another thing that customers say about top salespeople is, I view him or her as an unpaid member of my own staff. I can call on him or her at any time for help or service in this product or service area, and he or she will give it to me without charging. Another way that customers describe top salespeople is, I view him or her as a consultant, as a friend, and as an advisor. Because I don't see him or her as a salesperson at all. I see him or her as a person who gives me good advice to help me improve my life or work in some way. And the final thing that they say, very common, is he or she really understands my situation. Why do you buy from that person? Well, he or she really understands my situation. I've worked with him or her for a long time, and he or she really knows what I need. He or she really knows my situation. Once you get that positioning in the heart and mind of your customer, they will never go anywhere else as long as you treat them well. Now, the key to relationship selling is trust and credibility. The larger the sale, the more important the relationship, because there's a greater risk. The more people who will be affected by the purchase and may be happy or unhappy, the more important is the relationship. The longer the life of the product, or the longer the length of the decision to buy, the more important is the relationship. Now, for a first-time buyer of your product or service, the relationship is extremely important, because the first-time buyer is the one who is the most concerned about making a mistake because of their lack of knowledge and experience in your product or service area. You see, the key variable in modern selling is risk. And a good relationship lowers the perception of risk on the part of your customer. And this brings us to one of the most wonderful breakthroughs in selling. This is basically a career maker for you. I call it the new model of selling, and it's my own invention and contribution to the profession. It's the key to sales success. Now, in the new model of selling, what you do is you imagine a triangle, and the triangle is an upside down triangle, and it's divided into 4 quarters, or basically 4 parts. The first part of the new model of selling is trust. Trust means establishing a high level of trust with the client, and it represents fully 40% of the sales process. So if you're looking for how much time you allocate with your customer, you spend at least 40% building the relationship. Now, the second part of the new model of selling, the triangle, the next part down, is identifying needs accurately. You take the time to be absolutely clear about the customer's needs and problems, and this is fully 30% of the sales process. Now, in identifying needs, you ask really good questions of the customer, and then you listen closely to the customer when the customer talks without interrupting. When you ask good questions about the customer and listen closely, you build trust. You expand your knowledge of how you can best help this customer, and you start to move inexorably toward the sale. Now, the third part of the triangle of selling is presentation. That's the next 20% of the sales process, is where you show that your product or